Hello? Okay, I don't know how long this is going to take. I'll try and keep it short. But basically, the topic I want to talk about is comedy movies. I was watching Step Brothers last night, and I was laughing my ass off. Hilarious. And it got me thinking about something I've always believed. And it's something... Well, first of all, I'd like to start by saying a quote by Russell Brand, who's a comedian over here, who was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I'm a big fan of his in general. I've seen him live. I watched a lot of his TV shows, big fan of his radio show. But he said something, he says a lot of things that are annoying, to be fair, but he said something that made me think he was just so annoying, and it was something that I really disagree with a lot. And basically, it made him sound like a dick as well. And basically what he said was, and he said it in all seriousness, he said he was arguing with someone about being funny or something, and he said, but I'm objectively funny, I've won awards, so I'm objectively funny. What an idiot. You can't be objectively funny because humour in its nature is subjective, so how can you be definitely funny on something if it's a subjective medium? Because I find funny, somebody else won't find funny. So just because somebody voted for him, that's because that person likes his humour. Go to the next guy and he's not going to like it. You know, somebody who likes, say, Russell Brand's humour might not like Bill Hicks' humour or something like that. That kind of example. And it really annoyed me, but mainly it annoys me because I don't think comedy movies get the respect they deserve a lot of the time. I'm a big believer, firm believer, that each genre of film works within that genre of film. And I don't like comparing, you know, Dumb and Dumber to, you know, Citizen Kane. Alright, that's a stupid example, but Dumb and Dumber to Pulp Fiction or something like that. Because Dumb and Dumber is very much its own film, working its own genre, and within that, it's one of the best, right? Agreed, fine, good. I think so anyway. I'm not saying agree because, as again, you may not agree. But I think it's one of the best. Now, basically, I mean, this also brings up another subject, and one of the things I wanted to talk about was Adam Sandler. Now, I'm an Adam Sandler fan in general. I think some of his comedies don't work with me. Little Nicky, I didn't like. Mr. Deeds, Waterboy. Not particularly a big fan of those ones, but I like Happy Gilmore, I like The Wedding Singer, I like Click, I like 50 First Dates. You know, he has very much that kind of similar thing. He works with the same people and he makes his own, his movies. Adam Sandler movies are very much Adam Sandler movies, you know. He makes, even his comedy movies are very different to most other people's comedy movies. He makes Adam Sandler movies. But then he goes and makes Punch Drunk Love, Reign Over Me, etc, etc. You know, stuff like that. Spanglish, but I haven't seen that one. You know, so I think he gets a lot of jip, and like people say, and even I've said it before, he needs to do more drama, and I think he does need to do more drama. But I respect him for, you know, making movies with his friends effectively. He makes movies with his friends, and he makes movies he likes and he enjoys. And, you know, I think that's respectable. And he seems like a nice guy as well. And I think there's a little bit too much of a snobberish about comedy. I was thinking the other day, you know, if I was to live with only one genre of film, I'd pick comedy hands down, by a mile. I mean, loads of my favourite films are comedies. All the Jim Carrey movies, you've obviously known my collection pretty much. Wayne's World, Austin Powers, I'm just looking at my DVDs. Austin Powers, a lot of Will Ferrell movies, Anchorman, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, Blades of Glory. Then you've got the more kind of serious comedies like all the Wes Anderson films. A lot of Tarantino's had comedy in them. I wouldn't class them as comedy though. Borat, though I don't like that as much as most people. You know, movies like your 80s comedies like Breakfast Club and Big and The Burbs, Gremlins, horror comedy. You know, movies like these, they're all in some of my favourites of all time. A lot of them, Dumb and Dumber's in my top 10. You know, Wayne's World, the highest comedy I think on my list. And I just really hate a snobberish about comedy movies. They're made to make you laugh, and if they do that, then they're good comedy movies. Doesn't matter about their production value. Doesn't matter too much about the amount of the quality of the acting. If it makes you laugh, it's a good comedy movie. End of. Okay. No, as I say, it hasn't got the production values of, you know, Saving Private Ryan, but it's not meant to be. And I think this attitude needs to change. Now, I'm not saying I want loads of movies to suddenly, loads of comedy movies to come up at the Oscars or something like that. But I think And also, I will say one thing. I will think it is changing a little bit. I think the tide is changing. You have kind of your movies that are respected, comedy movies, but they're kind of old ones. Life of Brian, Airplane. Oh, what's the other one? Airplane. Oh, Caddyshack. You know, things like that. But they're the kind of ones that, you know, that's a long time ago now. Groundhog Day, deservedly so. But they're a while ago now. And I think, but then there was a period through the 90s, I think, where a lot of them didn't really get through. A few of them, Clerks, you know, movies like that got through, but they were few and far between. And then I think now there's been a kind of resurgence of kind of with the Apatow, especially his own ones, not so much the ones that he did with other, you know, being a producer of, you know, even though Pineapple Express is my favourite one. But films like 40-Year-Old Virgin, pretty much all of them, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, and Funny People. Well, Funny People didn't do well with the critics really, but it's a more serious comedy, and I think his style is starting to break out a little more. I'd say the biggest is probably Borat from the last kind of, you know, 15 or so years. It's probably Borat in terms of being critically acclaimed comedy. Bruno fell its ass, but Bruno was horrible. By the way, I have changed my mind about Bruno. It wasn't very good at all. I might have liked it in my review, but it was awful. Yeah, so, you know, as I say, I'm going to try and keep this short. So basically, in summary, I want to know your opinions on comedies. You know, as I say, comedy movies are my go-to movies. Maybe it's an easy thing to say. It's always good to laugh, isn't it? You know, so maybe it's a little too easy to say that, but I definitely think comedy movies would be my favourite genre. And I think, you know, I love it when the actors go into serious stuff like Jim Carrey, like Adam Sandler, and it's good that they can do both of those, but just because they do that doesn't mean their comedy work should be looked on, you know, less so, or with a kind of, you know, a patronising eye, you know, with a kind of high above almighty attitude. You know, Team America, I'd say, did fairly well, you know, as a kind of political comedy. But I seriously think more comedies should get more attention in general. I mean, you know, why? I'm sure all these critics that go on about, you know, your There Will Be Blood, which I love. You know, your There Will Be Bloods and you know, your bloody whatever, your Saving Private Ryans. I mean, they enjoy a comedy, but maybe they're a bit too scared to say. I'm not scared to say it. So I want to know your opinion. What's your favourite comedy movie? What's your least favourite? What comedy movie do you think could have been nominated for an Oscar maybe and never was? Comedy performances you think were Oscar worthy? I've got quite a few. I think Jim Carrey in Man on the Moon should have been Oscar worthy, though again that's more serious. In terms of a more wacky one, but I think bloody Will Ferrell and Anchorman's Oscar worthy, but you know, that's just me, I guess. As I say, see, I laughed at that. Now, I think we're being conditioned to believe that they don't deserve to be nominated, but why not? Why not? So yeah, thanks for listening. It was more of a rant than anything, but thanks for listening.